This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we are discussing the aftermath of the APC National Convention, and particularly the matters arising therefrom. And with me, Ms. Zainab Galadima and Malam Hamza Idris. So once again, Zainab, let me start with you. Your family have been part of the foundation of this party, and you were at the convention yourself as a member of the APC on Saturday. What's your impression of the convention? How did it go? Did it go according to the wishes of the majority of the party members?
I would say not really, because when I got into the convention ground, I felt a bit of a vibe, and so many people were not happy. But because party is supreme, they behaved themselves, they conducted themselves in a very, civilized manner. Obviously there were a bit of rantings outside and stuff like that. But generally people were, calm and, because obviously party is supreme and the leadership has already taken its decision, but I would have loved for it to be open to all, so that people can feel included, and feel a sense of, and have a sense of recognition at some point. So that was the vibe I got. So
when you said the people were not happy, what were the reasons they were not happy for?
A lot of people bought forms. A lot of people aspired. We had a lot of people that were capable, that were credible, and we felt that they could bring something, to the table, and also, actually make a difference, and actually maybe, bring something to the party maybe that, wasn't there before. But, a lot of, hopes were dashed because, a list was out, and so they had to abide by it. But at least, regardless, I think their monies were returned to them, and which is a bit of a, gave them a bit of succor to be able to handle it well. So that.
But when people, Malamza, when people pay money, to obtain a nomination form, obviously it's not the money that matters to them at that point. It's the position that they are contesting. They want to see themselves going for the post, compare themselves to others within the same party that have also collected the same forms. So how would it feel? This idea of consensus, is it degrading democracy to some extent?
Yes, to greater extent. As Ajia Zainab said, before the convention, there was serious optimism among party faithful that they will test the waters. They all have their plans. But to my understanding as a political reporter, what the party did was to solve a big problem, but temporarily. Yes, in the sense that if they had allowed maybe election to hold for all the party offices, they will solve a big problem permanently. Yes, but doing the consensus, of course, you remember when the president signed the Electoral Act, it was with a caveat, which the National Assembly amended again, which he finally signed with another request, which is not our issue of discussion today. But the first one, he said it should be an open contest, so that members of political parties will now decide the mode to adopt in selecting their leaders, which could be direct primary, indirect, or consensus. And this does not mean just for elective positions. I mean, in electoral process, maybe general elections or by-elections, even in party activities like what we witnessed on Saturday. So overall, they really solved a major problem temporarily. This is my impression about.
So if you say temporarily, what do you mean?
Yes, because there are many of the aspirants, they respected the party supremacy and swallowed their pride. They signed the documents because it was part of the provision that if you agree to go for consensus, that you should sign a document. Many of them, they sign, but they are still embittered, meaning they will go back to trenches. We don't know what will happen between now and the next 2 months, because they have up to end of July, right? To now complete, June, right? To now do their primary. So you are going to see a lot of problems. Obviously, I'm not a soothsayer, but I know they are going to face serious challenges at the state level and at the national level, because some believe that they are so powerful and popular in their local government or in their state or in their region, meaning that is geopolitical zone, and they will wreak havoc maybe when it comes to electing other offices, that is for the 2023 general election. So it's like, is it cutting the tail of a snake while the head is still there? Yes. This is my observation as far as what happened on Saturday.
That's concerned. Thank you. Haja Zainab, another thing that people were thinking around was the consensus is now becoming more like an imposition. Yes. Because when the president says he wants this man or that man or this woman or that woman, it's difficult for any other member in the party, or a governor or something, to say they are going against that, even though the person may be popular or may not be popular. So is there a feeling within the party that, you know, various candidates have been imposed on them rather than candidates that they have elected themselves?
Absolutely, I feel so. And one thing, and a lot of people have been in this party for a very long time, since its inception. And a lot of people have contributed, you know, they've sacrificed and stuff like that. And some of this people on the list that were brought in are new members of the party. They were not there when all the, you know, structure was being formed, you know, when the party was being solidified as an entity per se. So a lot of people feel aggrieved that after all my sacrifice since 2014, now somebody that just joined the party 6 months ago is now, you know, my leader, which is very hard to swallow for some people. But if, for example, that person, that leader that's been, you know, selected to be there because there was not, it wasn't an election, you know, in the real sense, if maybe he has an open heart, you know, and is accommodating and will include people, I think people will feel a bit of, you know, a bit relaxed. But like he said, in the next few weeks, we will see a lot of, you know, the direction changing. You know, a lot of people will leave the party. Some might come in, you know, that happens usually during election years, but election time is seasonal. And a lot of people are going to, because we already had problems during the congresses.
Yes.
You know, we had parallel, you know, chairman, you know, and stuff like that. So we still haven't solved those problems. They are still lingering. And like he said, it is a temporary problem. We do not know what it might lead to. I was actually really, really surprised at the conduct of people. They actually were calm, because I was expecting violence and stuff like that. I really was. So I put my mind.
There were some people who were actually shouting that they had been in this party for a long time.
A lot of people
you know,
spoke.
The videos of that went viral, isn't it?
Yes,
okay.
and it's well within their rights. This is democracy, and the beauty of it is, you know, it's about, you know, election and stuff like that. I believe more in direct primaries, where, you know, a member can feel, you know, that sense of, you know, whatever it is that, you know, makes him a party person. But for now, you really do not have a say, because the future is in the hands of, you don't even know what interest they have, because politics is about interest, you know. And I feel like we're yet to see, you know, some things unfolding, which might affect our chances on some, you know, seats and, you know, positions, you know, where we have. So
interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Malamza, Haja Zainab raised an important issue.
Yes.
Namely that some people felt that some members just came only a few months ago or only a few years ago, but those of us that have been in this party since 2014 and are building it. The newspapers have taken this angle, at least some of these newspapers have taken this angle in analyzing the convention. You know, you are aware some newspapers are saying that it is ex-PDP members who are in fact dominate the current National Working Committee of the APC. What does that say about the APC as a new party?
There was an error in that narration.
Okay.
Yes. Many of them, like the national chairman, he was a founding member of sort, maybe second category of founding members.
But he won his senatorial election, his governorship election, even this current election, okay, up to 2011.
If you were to take it that way, in fact, there is no difference between PDP and APC. But when you go back to maybe ahead of 2015, that was when we witnessed serious realignments. And when you look at the narration out there, it is that all the key people who won, maybe chairman, deputy national chairman, then vice chairman of the party, that all of them were originally PDP. It's not true. Abdullah Adamu joined APC around 2014. Senator Abu Kyari, who is the deputy national chairman, he was never a member of any other party apart from APP, AMPP, and then APC. Now the other fellow deputy national chairman, South, he started from AC, then AC, and then he temporarily joined PDP, then he went back to APC. Many of them. But the point I'm trying to make...
So they're APC men?
Yes.
Rather than former
exactly.
PDP men? Okay.
But the point I'm trying to make is that the party leadership at the highest level actually dozed off for a very long time. And that was why we witnessed this disaffection among members ahead of the convention. Because if you look at it since 2015, they have been using consensus, but they do plan ahead of time. They plan quite ahead of time. If you look at how Oyegun emerged, if you look at how Adams Oshomole emerged, if you also look at even Buni, even though as a caretaker, it was all through consensus of sort. There was no real election whereby you have contenders A, B, C to slug it out, and then you count the vote and say, okay, contender A or B won. But what they used to do before was to work far ahead of time, even if they had emergencies, such as the unceremonious exit of Adams Oshomole.
Yes.
They took time. But this time around, it's like the national leader of the party, the real national leader, that is President Muhammadu Buhari, he didn't show much interest in what was happening until when the party naturally collapsed. Because if you look at it, almost every other person was on his own. So it was at the tail end that he now intervened. When he was in London, he went there to rest, but virtually I think he came back with
any rest.
He didn't rest. Yeah, so because they kept visiting him, and then there was serious politicking, backbiting, and all that. And then at the end of it, even on the day of the election, on the eve of the election, I mean, it was not certain that the forces will coalesce into a force to now come up with Abdullah Adamu and then the unity. And it is not members of the original list approved by the president that emerged. Because apart from Abdullah Adamu, who are those who were actually favored by President Muhammadu Buhari among the maybe major seats like the deputy national chairman? No. The president wanted Farouk Adamu Aliyu,
yes,
but he didn't get it. The national secretary, the deputy national chairman, all of these, they were products of other forces, especially the governors.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing issues around the attacks on the Kaduna-Abuja train last night, but also, of course, the rising security issues around Kaduna in recent months. And with me is one of Nigeria's most, well-known reporters, at least, on this issue. So my labs, each time I'm speaking about this issue with you, it doesn't look to me like I'm speaking with a colleague in the media. It always looks to me like I'm speaking with one of the most informed persons on this particular banditry issue. I don't think there's any other reporter in the country who has reported extensively or traveled extensively or met different kinds of actors on these issues more than yourself. So for me, it's always like I'm talking with an expert in these matters. Now, I think maybe we can look at the immediate concern. What's the point of attacking a train with that many passengers on board? What might the bandits trying to be trying to achieve?
I think, well, first, thank you very much for having me on the show. I think it is the signal, it is the statement. They know very well, whoever it is that orchestrated this attack, that this will grab the attention of the entire country, and that is the target. Because it is a dare, as I think this afternoon a statement from some Northern Senators Forum was mentioning that it is a dare on the country, because it's just like a step up from what they did last year when they attacked the NDA.
Okay.
There was attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy where they abducted some soldiers and killed some people. And so increasingly such attacks are strategic in a way to show like a coming of age kind of effrontery, to show that, okay, we have the capacity. If you think trends are things that cannot be attacked, are sophisticated, or they are invincible. Yeah, that's the word I was searching for. If you think that trends are invincible, we can actually even attack the trends. And I think, of course, they tried it the first time. It didn't work as much as it did this time around, which was really fatal, because up to this moment, we are still hearing of figures nobody knows, and they abducted so many. This evening, the Kaduna State government released an update statement saying that many people are unaccounted for. So it shows, it's actually the statement. You remember that only a few days earlier, as you said in the in the introduction to the program, there was attack on Kaduna Airport, and it's a similar thing. Trying to indicate that they have attained some level of sophistication, some level of strength that they can actually do launch more sophisticated attacks beyond the ransacking of villages, what is known, what is mostly known to this conflict.
Thank you. But the attempt to make a statement of this kind by bandits, it's in general among is maybe trying to, like you said, draw attention of the country, the whole country, grab headlines to show that they have arrived at this. But this kind of strategy, this modus,
operandi.
Thank you, is used mainly by terrorists that actually have a political agenda, by people who have an agenda and they want to announce the agenda. They want to use that strategy to advertise their agenda. But for bandits, most of whom live in rural areas or in the forests surrounding these rural areas, what statement are they trying to use this particular event to make?
Yeah, it's actually, they also have agenda, because yes, they don't have political agenda, that is clear, because it's not like there is a territorial agenda or any expansionist agenda, but actually they are craving for the attention of government. And in many ways, because a lot of them, as from my own experience, in as much as a lot of them enjoy the sort of infamy or that comes with this, what they are engaged in, and also maybe the lucrative nature of some of the activities. A lot of them are actually also battle fatigue. These are because they are not driven by ideology or political agenda. It's not a battle that they are all out for, honestly. Okay. So therefore, they crave for attention to have some sort of an exit, a closure in which they are not like surrendering, but they are like maybe a win-win kind of situation in which they don't get punished for all the criminal activities they have committed, but then at least they now get peace, because a lot of them are quite constrained by the fact that they can't go anywhere, they can't move, they can't do anything, and all that. And then, as I said, because the fight, the move itself is not driven by any ideology or political agenda, and therefore there is no that drive, not that motivation. And but they feel the government is underrating them. They feel the government is underrating, and that is why increasingly they have done a number of attacks to show that they have the capacity. Look at all the school abductions are all part of it. Last year, late in 2019 and last year, they went to attack early last year, around this time last year also, they went to Sabon Birni and attacked a military a security base and ransacked it, actually abducted some of them, killed many, loot their weapons and all that. They have done a similar thing in Zamfara State. They have come to Kaduna, Abuja Road and operated for 4 days consecutively. So all these things are their own attempt, in my reading, to show that you guys underrate us at your own peril, that we have the capacity to bring the country to its knees, or to at least...
And without any ideological agenda.
Without any ideological agenda. Because, largely these things are, a lot of people say, oh, the bandits are angry with the government. Why are they attacking the ordinary people or people on the street? Mostly this, especially these highway abductions and all that, are driven by these two things. The attempt to draw attention to themselves, and also the need for them to raise money to fund their activities.
Thank you. So I've just learned that Mr. Adebayo Hassan has arrived, so we'll be taking a short break in order to have him seated in the studio. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thank you, and welcome back. So far, we've been discussing around the attacks on the Kaduna-Abuja train last night, but also on the wider issues of insecurity, not just in Kaduna State, but also around the Northwest. But with me is Mr. Adebayo Hassan, who we introduced earlier as Head of Investigations of Premium Times newspaper. Like Malam Abdulaziz, Mr. Adebayo has extensive experience of reporting conflict and security in Nigeria. So maybe if we can continue with you. Part of if you look at just before this attack on the Kaduna train yesterday, there was an attack in the airport. Before then, there were attacks in southern Kaduna. Before then, there were attacks around Giwa, and there have been for several. So what kinds of banditry, what kinds of terrorism do we have in Kaduna State specifically? Is it in a class different from Zamfara and Katsina or even Niger states?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we all have to come to the realization that the country is increasingly sunk in a deepening conflict trap. And this is now appearing in different dimensions. What you have in Zamfara, which, as we have seen, is an offshoot of ethnic and resource conflict between the Hausa and the Fulani. Of course, poorly managed, and we have this problem there. And you would say that in the case of Zamfara, you could say, okay, this is what the problem is. Maybe, like, of course, ethnicity, resource issues there. But what we have in Kaduna is pure criminality. Of course, the situation in Zamfara too is pure criminality. Some opportunistic criminals who are hell-bent on bringing down the country, ensuring that nothing works. But I think we have to be careful about saying banditry. The case of Kaduna, that it's clear terrorism. I am not a security person, but I would imagine that the intelligence officials would be working on that theory already. Now, for several years, a Boko Haram splinter group, Ansaru, has been active in this area. And some of us who...
In Kaduna?
Yes, in Kaduna, they've been active in the area. And we also understand that some of the most audacious attacks Boko Haram carried out in Abuja here, like attack on the United Nations, were actually carried out by the guys that formed the Kaduna wing, the Ansaru, you know. So, and some of us who work in the area of investigative journalism, we also understand that much more than what has ever been reported. These people, the Ansaru, they are delivering devastating attacks, targeting security officials and high-profile individuals. So when they are, when you see attack on train station, you know, not on road now, it's possible that this is actually something being carried out by terrorists.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we are discussing the issues around the major opposition party, PDP, as we inch towards the 2023 elections. So I start with you, Dr. Ifeanyi. Let's start with Wike's declaration, first and foremost. What does it add to the PDP slate of presidential candidates so far? Before him, about 6 people had picked up the nomination forms. So he's coming into it. What does it mean for the wider PDP ticket altogether?
Well, they would say the more the merrier. And I think what is pertinent for the People's Democratic Party is clinching power. Their priority is about regaining power at the center. And so whatever the party would do to regain power at the center should take precedence over any other primordial consideration. I am one of those who believe that rotation is primordial. It is primordial because it succumbs and submits to the sentiments, ethnic, tribal, religious sentiments that had held this country down for decades. And of course, that is about consuming our country. Because these primordial considerations account for why we've not been able to evolve into a nation more than 50 years after, in fact, 60 years after independence. So the entrance of His Excellency Governor Nyesom Wike into the contest for the presidential ticket of the PDP. It's a welcome development. It's welcome because the argument of those proponents of zoning is that since we have a president of northern extraction in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has been in the saddle for 7 years plus and will be completing 8 years, 2 tenures by next year, that presumably power should move to the other flank, southern Nigeria. So His Excellency, Governor Nyesom Wike, is of course of the southern Nigeria extraction. So he has not breached any of the permutations for zoning. It's a welcome development, and there are a whole lot more that, of course, have indicated interest, particularly from that zone and in the party. Persons like the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, persons like the immediate past national president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Chief Ohabunwa, and of course the former Senate President, Chief Pius Anyim. So the number of Southerners who are members of the People's Democratic Party, heavyweights for that matter, who have indicated interest in that plumb position, they are increasing by the day. I would want to believe that between now and Friday, bearing last-minute adjustment in the timetable released by the People's Democratic Party, because by Friday, that will be the end of the sale of forms, except there's an extension, a whole lot more would have joined in the race, and then the conversation can now begin properly.
This is interesting, Malan, isn't it? Because the argument within the PDP for those who support the zoning formula is basically two. One, that in 2019, Wike said this clearly, that in 2019, they agreed that the presidency should be zoned to the north, which is how Atiku emerged as their presidential candidate, and which is why there was nobody from the south of Nigeria in 2019 who contested the ticket at the time. So they feel that one turn deserves another this time. So how does that argument work out in 2023, just 4 years later?
Yeah, just as Doctor has said, I think it amounts to the issue of fairness when you zone or you rotate the presidency of the country. And I think that's where those that are agitating for zoning in the PDP to go to the south, the president should go to the south, are basing their argument that it is amounting to, it's a matter of being fair to each other, because we supported you in 2019 that the presidency should go to the north, and we went into the election. Of course, they didn't win, but at least there was that agreement that it should go to the south. And if you look at the main ruling party, there's that indication that they may likely be zoning to the southern part of the country. I think it is fair that the PDP does that too. But I think the argument of those that are talking about retaining the presidency in the north is that the two zonings that were done in the past did not favor the PDP, that the north, that PDP politicians in the north have not been lucky with the presidency in all the zonings that they've had, so that they are looking at within the confines of their own party that the northern PDP members deserve to have a chance again, so that the north should have a bite of it as PDP-controlled federal government, possibly in 2023. But I see that as a bit selfish, because it's not all about one person. We are talking about Nigeria, because when we come out of the 2020 election, whoever emerges is going to be the presidency of the country, and outside party, we are all Nigerians. So I think it is advisable for the PDP not allow this the zoning issue to rock the party, because it may affect their chances in the coming election.
Thank you. Doctor, that's precisely what makes it interesting. The last comment made by Maila Haruna, that if the zoning is allowed to rock the party, then it can be a problem for them in the election. The argument is that you are in the opposition. You don't have power yet. You're actually seeking this power. You want to capture power from a ruling party. You don't have the power. So maybe your problem should not be zoning at this stage. You know, for example, in 2015, the APC, they didn't worry about zoning. They just opened the floor for everyone in an open contest, and whoever won went in to represent the party in the elections. So there is the argument that if the PDP has power, then it can decide what to do with that power. But the first thing is to get back the power. How does that argument, square with the argument about fairness in relation to North and South in terms of sharing power?
Thank you. As far as I'm concerned, what we need to zone is zoning out insecurity. What we need to zone is zoning out poverty. What we need to zone is zoning out the challenges we have with the energy in the energy sector. What we need to zone is zoning out inflation. What we need to zone is zoning out unemployment. I am looking for a president that will speak to these things, and not whether he is of southern extraction or northern extraction. And I think the common people that we're seeking to serve in the street, that are bearing the current brunt of failed governance, they are not looking for a southern language speaking person, because it will not solve this problem. The problem we have requires a man for the job. As an opposition party, for me, what should be cardinal to the People's Democratic Party is, who would we field, irrespective of where he or she comes from, that will get power for us? That must be paramount. Let me say why this is important. These things I mentioned bedeviling our country do not spare the North or the South. It's cross-cutting. And so that's why that should drive the conversation. If we go to the arithmetic of what had happened between 1999 till date, you will find out that cumulatively, irrespective of party, by the time President Muhammad Buhari is done and gone, presidency would have been with the North for a total number of 10 years. And presidency would have been in the South for a cumulative number of 14 years. Meaning that there is a differential of 4 years between the North and the South. And so that goes to support my position on this matter for PDP. Who is that credible person? Not in terms of deep pocket, but that when he stands, the average person on the street, the poor man will say, with this person, I think our future.
But
can,
Doctor,
yes.
Some people will argue against this argument that Nigerians don't vote that way. Not every Nigerian voter considers these issues when they vote. They vote sometimes with considerations of their own affiliation to the candidates. Maybe affiliation with respect to religion, with respect to region or state, and sometimes even within a state, affiliation to senatorial district or even village. So if many Nigerians vote this way, how do you account for groups who feel excluded from the system, particularly in terms of having a shot at the top job?
Thank you very much. You have situated the conversation a lot more central. The point need be made, and people will shy away from it. I'm going to say something that will not sit well with most of my Southern brothers. No Southerner will get power without the holistic support and endorsement of the North. It's a game of number. And by our current statistics for today, the number seems to be in the North. And so if the number apparently is in the North for today, nobody would say he's going to get power if you rubbish the North. So it's very important that in this conversation, you said something before I came to speak on this, that the point is power presently is in the north, but not for the PDP. It is for the APC. So the only party that is duty bound to zone to the south, totally duty bound, if zoning is part of their tenets in their constitution, to zone to the south, is the APC. Because you can give only that which you have. So you can't give what you do not have. The PDP currently have nothing to zone. The power is not with them. There's absolutely nothing for them to zone. So what they should be zoning is the material candidate that will get power and bring them back to power. It is when you get power that you zone power. APC has power. That's why the conversation is a lot easier there. They've had it in the north. So, invariably it should go southward. However, if these two leading parties decide to put power, zone their presidential candidates to the north, to the south, whoever would pick it will depend on where the north wants it to go. So it's a major consideration. What is the strength of the People's Democratic Party in the north as of today? It is something we need to consider critically. So, for me, the party, yes, must not allow zoning to rock it. But I think that PDP is a lot more robust than we think. Because the party had to come from behind since 2015 to where it is presently. And with the discontent in the country, a whole lot are looking up to PDP to provide a credible alternative. They may not have been a credible opposition, but they can provide a credible alternative by throwing up a candidate, north or south, that can speak to the myriad of issues bedeviling Nigeria. It's very important. That is the thing that I should consider the pivot or compass that should guide whatever the 37-man committee is discussing. It's important. Recently, one of their members just jumped ship, and he said the reason why he jumped ship, which is a major crowd puller in northern Nigeria, is because they had issues in his state, and the national leadership of the party didn't look his direction to find out how to sort out the matters he had with the state structure of the party. So it's important that we look at the strength of PDP in the north at the moment. If we give them, if they sit their presidential ticket to the north, do we have the base, the PDP followership base in the north to pull it through and get power? If they do not have, let us therefore complement it. Whatever we have in the north, let's use that to complement the followership in the south, which had remained consistent. Even in some states that claim that they are now APC states, they are only APC within the government house. As you move away from the government house, you are meeting PDP. That is the truth. So that's what we should be looking at.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing around issues of security in Kaduna, but of course and environs. Kaduna State is centrally located in northern Nigeria, and it borders virtually most of the leading states in the country: Niger, Zamfara, FCT, and others beside. All of these places have been involved in various kinds of attacks on citizens and on their property for many, many months now. And citizens are asking, what have we done to deserve this? Must this continue? And will this continue? And with me are two guests to pour over all of these issues. Marlon Jibrin, let me start with you. You know, you've covered these issues for a long time, and you're now editor for your newspaper on these issues. One trend that has, come out clearly in all of this is that before it used to be Zamfara. Now it appears like Kaduna is becoming the center of this banditry issue. In the past 1 week alone, tens of people have been killed, tens more abducted in Kaduna, of all places, in northern Nigeria. What's happening?
Well, let me from your background, I mean, the picture you painted is sadly the expected picture of what we are going through, particularly in northern Nigeria, but again, one of the most important states and empire cities in Nigeria, Kaduna. But if you look at global trend of terrorism and insurgency, many experts will tell you that this is not surprising. You look at the stand of the governor of the state, Governor Madan Nasir Rufai. I mean, I don't work for him, but this is very clear. Being somebody of cover, you can see how proactive he has been. He's been a boot on the ground, if you like. And his stand is at variance with what insurgents and all manner of criminals will like. So, and that is one. Two, Kaduna is also a place that, when criminals attack it, the impact on it will be more than almost any other state in the north, maybe Kano and all of that. You have many critical national infrastructure, many military facility, many institutions and all of that. And then the place of Kaduna itself in the scheme of things in Nigeria. Everybody who is who in northern Nigeria have one thing or the other is linked directly to Kaduna, including the president and commander-in-chief, and all former generals and serving and retired, all top civil servants, all politicians, all of them, everybody is indirectly or directly linked to Kaduna. So that is another aspect. But thirdly, I think that there's a book by one U.S. congressman. The title of the book, he wrote the book after 9/11, The Failure of Imagination. His argument is that Americans should not pretend that there won't be another 9/11. The security architecture of a country must think of the worst in modern time so that you can anticipate and react to. So let's take, for instance, the train. Let's start from the train, which the collateral damage is more in terms of perception, in terms of loss of human and material. I mean, I have asked this question, and Suleiman, I'll put that to you. If the train were to be in China, considering the importance of Kaduna and Abuja, will the Chinese government allow it to train blind? Because the train is running blind, what Hausa would say, a blind makahon jirigi, if you like. Yeah. Because if the train leaves the station in Abuja, he can't even see what is happening in Kuba station. In modern era, and I use the example of Nigerian Navy, for instance, with their Falcon Eye. From the naval headquarters, they see what happened. They see what happened within the Nigerian nautical mile, the sea, the Gulf of the Gate, and if there is anything, they are able to respond with their boots on the ground. Now you are running a train. In modern time, this train, there is no facility in this train that can dictate any attempt either in on the track or even from anywhere, and there's no monitoring mechanism even from the station. And you see, sometimes, Suleiman, and let me get to another point. At every point when this happens, you hear in the National Assembly, people talk, but are there no oversight function?
Exactly.
So I don't want us, when situations happen, Suleiman, let us sit back the way we're doing now, and let us provide solutions rather than grandstanding.
Yeah.
Because it's our country. You have a rail line that is running with no technology on it. Security infrastructure should be part of this train from day one.
From day one.
And if there is not, the National Assembly, through their oversight function, either the Senate or the House of Rep should have noted, okay, this train, even though it is not there, we will not allow you to run without this. And then you put all this in place. Now,
So you've raised quite a few interesting issues. First of all, the idea of grandstanding or blame trading by various parts, units of the government, but also the idea of surveillance as part of our security, not just on the train, but in the country as a whole, given the situation that we're in. But I will speak with Dr. Tanko. Dr. Tanko, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
You could hear Malan Jibrin as well, the issues
Yes,
he's raising.
very, very clearly. Yes, although I'm on Skype.
Thank you. So just before we get to issues of surveillance and what he calls grandstanding or blame trading among the public officials after a tragedy, after Nigerians have to bury their dead and all that, let's look at Kaduna's centrality once a bit. On Monday, before Monday, this thing happened at the airport. The bandits attacked the airport. And then on Monday again, they attacked the train going to Kaduna. And then between then and now, they have attacked communities in Zaria, communities in Giwa, and so on. What this shows is a sort of daringness, that yes, we can do this and nothing is going to happen. Is that element part of this discussion?
Okay. In addition to the details my colleague here has given, I would like to have to make a scenario approach. This is a very, very complex situation. People are claiming that government is not ready, security agencies are not doing their duties or something like that. If you go to records, you go to how people do their activities, all this kind of thing is not correct. So I would like to have a script scenario of the whole thing. This scenario, I will break it into physical, human, and institutional scenarios. Okay. What is happening in Nigeria now is that there is disconnect between the government services, and the people that they are supposed to serve for a very, very long time. I'm not here now to give you a date and other things to blame one regime over the other, but generally, government is not able to touch the ground. I will give you an example. Physically, there is nobody that can tell you exactly who are staying in the gap along the roads. You can drive to Abuja now by road, or you go by air. You can take maybe the road from Kefi to Jos, and you come back to Mararaban Jos. What is in between that area? Nobody knows. I can tell you that as we are talking now, there is no single person that will tell you how many communities we have in Nigeria. In addition to that, how many people do we have? We always guess. Guess what? So if you don't know the physical environment, any problem that physical environment is going to come out with, that one will take you by surprise. Second one is the human terrain. I just spoke about how many people we have. We don't know how majority of Nigerians are managed. We don't know how they survive. People will just tell you that there are about 3 million. Not true. Nobody has gone in there to look for it. We don't even know how many languages we have. So this is also ignorance. But also, the institutions that we think we plan them on paper, we install them, we provide budgets, we assign people to manage them. These institutions, they cannot perform. People are saying that institutional...
Dr. Tanko, that's exactly what Nigerians are asking. Why can't institutions that draw budget from government fund and from government posts every year, why can they not perform? They have been trained to do so. They have been provided with budgets on an annual basis to do so. Why can they not perform? For goodness sake, we have a national security advisor in this country. We have many different security agencies. The question is, why can they perform?
They can't perform because no single person can perform without the other person performing. Let me go back to the issue of security architecture. Security architecture here means a one complete structure that is connected to everything. There is nothing like that. Because if you go, somebody in Abuja cannot decide what happens in Hadeja in Jigawa because you have not been there and you are not in communication with people. So what we are facing now, we are in some kind of a security ecosystem without really recognizing that it is an ecosystem. Ecosystem is an environmental thing where they will tell you that a whole area, everything is connected to everything. The insects, the birds, the trees, the people, the river, the ground, everything is connected to everything. That is what is happening in Nigeria now, but we are approaching things with complete ignorance. And anybody that would tell you that there is no report or ways or means to solve this kind of problem, that person is not being fair to the professionals that are
Thank you. Thank you. Just give me a moment. I'll come back to you right now. Because Dr. Tanko has raised another important issue. Coordination of intelligence and security activities, among various agencies, in the government, and more importantly, the coordination of government response to these issues. Is there a failure of coordination given in mind that, following the attack, this Daily Trust newspaper reported that, there was intelligence as early as in February, but no one did anything to it. And earlier, the governor of Kaduna State was also saying that they had written to the Nigerian Railway that they received intelligence that the train might be under attack, and nobody acted on it.
It all boils down to the point I made earlier. Failure of imagination. I mean, it will be foolhardy to anybody to think that the rail line will not be a soft target. It just speaks to the issue that I've raised. That U.S. expert, one of them, Michael McCain, wrote in his book, The Failure of Imagination, that what happened in 9/11 was as a result of the lack of recognition that this was, you must, within the security circle, especially in this age of terrorism and insurgency, there must be worst case scenario building. Yeah. And I always use the example of the aircraft. The pilot doesn't want to die, or the air hostess when they remind you of what you needed to do when there's a plane crash. It's not that they are telling you that you are going to die, they want to live, but they are reminding you to be proactive. They are telling you to be mindful of what is likely, you may be helpless. That is the kind of attitude. And not just government, citizens.
Why don't we have that attitude?
I'm coming to that. And let me also say this. I know Dr. Tanko also, all over the world, this idea of rivalry, of lack of synergy, even in developed countries, these things happen. Okay. Among services, it happens. There are books on the Iraqi war between generals, it's called generals at war. So this is not new. And what we needed to do is that as a nation, we must understand that it is not just the military or other security agencies that can solve our problem in terms of this kind of insecurity, because it's not a conventional warfare. Now you're talking of railway. If the right steps were taken, for instance, this actionable intelligence given by Kaduna State government, what is the chain of command? Where did the information get to? Is it to the minister? When he got to the MD, did the MD tell the minister what value was attached to such information? Was the governor of Kaduna right to give the information to Nigerian Railway? Is that the right channel that I should give it to?
Rather than to security agencies?
So these are all the scenario that we must build.